Now, if you're a loved one of a filmmaker and photographer and you want to get them a gift for the holidays that is relevant to what they do with filmmaking and photography, and you're like, oh no, but I don't want to talk about cameras and lenses, I know nothing about that. Well, I actually have a few suggestions that could help them in their workflow that could get you some accolades for those gifts that you're giving. And even if you're a filmmaker and photographer, some of these you may not have thought about yourself. So let's go. What is up, you beautiful humans? Welcome back to the channel. And yes, today we are going to be talking about a few suggestions here when it comes to some things that could help a filmmaker and photographer in their workflow. And no, we're not going to be talking specifically about cameras and lenses because you know what? That filmmaker and photographer is likely in an ecosystem that you have no idea what they're doing. And you're like, wait, John films with Sony cameras? I thought Sony was just something that the television. Nope. So what we're gonna be talking about are things that they could use in their production and their post-production, so things that happen after they capture all of that footage. So why don't we get into a few things ranging from a variety of budgets, and I'm gonna be saving my favorite tool at the end. Now here we actually have a couple of really important things. We've got this Bway SD card holder, and you might be thinking like, okay, well, what is this? And so what the Bway SD card holder is that these SD cards go into the camera, and then as a filmmaker, you know, we might be going through several of these in a shoot, and so we need to put these here to grab another one to put in the camera, and so we want to keep these safe. So the nice thing about this case is that it is waterproof, shockproof. I've actually dropped it in the water and it has kept my SD cards nice and dry, and it is very reasonably priced and something that I highly recommend. And even if the person that you're buying for has one of these, you really can't have too many. Well, I guess if you had like 10 or 12 of them, that would be way too many. Importantly, let's actually talk about the SD card itself. Now, I will link everything up below, and those are affiliate links that help the channel, but no extra cost to you. So don't get confused by all of the SD cards, but typically what filmmakers are using are generally these SD cards. And like I said, I will link it up below, the ones that I use specifically that fit in a variety of cameras. Now, don't get confused by when you go online and you see these micro SD cards and you think like, oh, well, that's actually great and it's a good price. But the problem with that for cameras themselves is that there's a couple points of failure here. So what you get with these micro SDs is that you get an adapter so that you can put it into your computer or the dongle that you have to read the information. However, you've got these points of contact here that go into the reader, and then these points of contact that have to make contact inside of the camera itself. So you've got a couple points of failure and you don't want to lose your footage or compromise your footage in any way. These little SDs, these micro SD cards, are great for drones and they're great for action cameras because they go right in there. You don't typically need the adapters. These just go right into those cameras themselves. So great for drones and action cameras, just keep that in mind. And I would recommend an SD card that is at least 128 gigs if you can afford it. Again, these are not very expensive, but it will allow that photographer or filmmaker to get quite a bit of footage on that SD card without having to change them out frequently. Now, something else that I have in my camera kit always is this Manfrotto Tripod. I set this thing up to film like when I'm on my own, just setting up a shot and then using a remote to get some of those shots, like if I need something low down or if I put it up on a rock, or if I'm vlogging and just holding this handheld. It's a great little tripod at a budget price. I can't recommend this enough. Now you might be telling yourself, well, hey, doesn't the camera strap come with the camera body? Well, it does, but those are typically not great straps. This one from Peak Design is what I highly recommend, and I use it all the time to stabilize shots when I'm filming video. Here, let me borrow you for a second. So they have these clips that are quick release. And so essentially what you're gonna do is just slide that in and boom. And then if you want to undo it, it's done. It's very comfortable and it's adjustable from Peak Design. I use this all the time. Now, something along the stocking stuffer side of things would be gaff tape. Now, gaff tape is like the filmmaker's duct tape, except that it doesn't leave that residue once you remove it. It can hold things down like cables, or if you need to tape some things up like gels and paper to like diffuse the lighting. Those are things, again, if you're not a filmmaker, photographer, you might not understand that, but gaff tape is always in my bag and in a lot of filmmakers' bags, and we use this a lot. And speaking of which, here, let me just borrow you. I actually use gaff tape because I broke this lens and it is holding this lens together. Like I put this thing and did a little surgery and the gaff tape is holding the lens together. It's great stuff. Another little stocking stuffer that you might not think about are a bag of nuts. Actually, not these nuts. These nuts. So essentially what we have here are a few adapters and bolts and things that as filmmakers we may use to adapt our camera equipment around certain tripods or to hold things up. I'm using some of this stuff in my boom mic above. And yeah, it doesn't seem exciting, but I always have these in my bag because you never know when you need to downsize or increase the size of an adapter or something that you need to screw into, like I said, a tripod or a microphone or anything like that. Very inexpensive, great for the stocking. Now, something else that I also recommend is a roll-up like this. This is from Be Unique, Be Myself. And we have lots of cables that we're working with all the time. And you don't have to necessarily get this one in particular, but it does keep all of these cables nice and tucked away. And also too, what is really important from a post-production standpoint, here, this would be a great gift. This is a Samsung T5. This is an external drive that I edit all of my videos on and my photos. And you might ask yourself, well, yeah, but what about the internal hard drives of the computer? Why wouldn't he or she edit on that? Well, here's the thing. When we are moving around, traveling, sometimes we have a laptop, sometimes we have a desktop, sometimes we're working with teams and we need to transfer some of this footage. This is a great way to do it, and it's very fast. These are SSD, so there's no moving parts. If anything is moving in here, it's broken, it won't work. These are very fast drives, and I have edited most of my footage on this. Now, I would also, just as I did with the SD cards, I would recommend something closer to, if not the 1 terabyte SSD. And you might be like, 1 terabyte? I've got a computer that has like 128 gig hard drive and it doesn't actually run out of space. We're dealing with a lot of footage here. I mean, hey, we are dealing with a lot of stuff, like a lot of footage, you know, 4K, high res, raw they don't even know what we're talking about. A terabyte at a minimum. Now, another tool that I really, really love is something to help me with lighting. Now, not just like these key lights and these kickers and like these big light boxes. Well, that's a small one and then a much larger one lighting me, but things that are on the go, something like the Lume Cube. And this is waterproof. The battery is built in, USB Type-C charging ports. And I just love playing with these lights out and about. You can even use them in a studio like this as well. They also come with these magnetic diffusers to kind of diffuse the light so that it's not so harsh on your subject. And you can also get these gels that color the light. I mean, you can do some really fun things with these lights. I mean, here, let's check this out. You gotta check this out. Like this photographer right here, lighting the setup. So you've got the sky that's lighting that background, and then you have a little bit of that foreground. So he's actually placed these Lume Cube lights in a way to light him up coming up from below. I mean, there's lighting here. Like, these are not all like Lume Cube products, but this is just how we work with lighting as filmmakers, photographers, and some things that we can really do here. So yeah, like, just lighting is so much fun and so necessary. Can't forget an external battery. Always need juice. So whether that's charging our cameras, our phones, our electronics, it is nice to actually have a backup battery, and I never ever leave on any travels without a backup battery. Now, something else that is really important to a filmmaker is the audio that they're getting, whether it's things like the talking head that I'm doing right now, or getting here, let me borrow something here. I don't necessarily have too much. Something like this, very compact, run and gun, on the go. The Rode Video Micro, very reasonably priced, and this could be great for someone who is doing some of that vlogging style handheld to get better audio, or even when myself, like I'm shooting B-roll or I'm just getting some of that establishing shot from my location, like water running or just sounds of like cars. It's just much better than the built-in audio of the camera itself. And like I said, reasonably priced here. I've been using this for a couple of years now. I can't say enough good things about it, and it should work with just about every camera that has a microphone jack input. So just think about that. And most filmmakers are using something with a microphone jack input. Not everybody, but generally speaking, I would say most of the filmmakers do have a camera that can actually use this. Now, something that you may be a little reluctant to invest in and might be like a group gift. Now, that filmmaker or photographer may have a camera bag in their lives, and that's wonderful, but honestly, I don't know that you can have too many bags, so I've got a couple recommendations. Now, I have personally reviewed and used this Manfrotto camera bag. I've traveled with this, and it will be accepted like for all the travel that I've done internationally and throughout the United States. I've been able to bring this on the plane and at times been able to actually fit it under the seats. So something like the Manfrotto Bumblebee 230 is a great bag. It's got great reviews. I've used it. It is tough. It holds a lot of stuff. So give that a go. I will link up that video just to kind of show you some of the details about that bag. And my all-time favorite bag from Atlas Packs. I've reviewed this a couple of times. Travel everywhere, whether it's just hiking around Colorado or travels like where I have to get on a plane. This bag is great. It is fantastic. The camera gear does go in the back, but I will link up all of those videos so that you can kind of get more details if you need to. But I do not think you can go wrong with either of these bags, especially for that filmmaker that is traveling. Now, the very last thing that I want to recommend, it is one of my favorite tools. It's like an everyday carry just about, is a multi-tool. Now, you can get several types of multi-tools and they're quite a variety, but I do love this particular one. I kind of have things open here. You wouldn't normally carry it around like this. And so you have Phillips head and flat head, and you've got things to measure. You've got some scissors here, and the blades are pretty sharp. That's why I didn't pull those out, but there's a blade there. And then you also have a blade here, the serrated blade. And they also have that locking mechanism. So let me actually close this. And so if we bring this all the way up, it'll lock into place. And then you have that mechanism that you just pull that down and then you can bring the blade down. So putting this all together, putting this away, you also have these spring-loaded pliers. And I'm telling you what, folks, no matter where you are, whether it's in your office in a studio like this, or you're out there, a multi-tool like this is going to be the go-to. There's a lot of things that we need to tighten down, loosen up, try to pull off and cut and manipulate so that we can actually get the shot. This is a great go-to tool, my all-time favorite. I'll link it up below. I just can't say enough good things about something like this. It will be a tool that they will use time and time again, and they will miss if they can't find it. So don't go borrowing it and then not put it back where you found it. All right, so what specific questions do you have, or do you have? I'd love to hear you in the comments section. I love chatting it up with you. As always, you go out there and do those things that matter. You keep rocking those faces. You go do the things. I'm gonna keep creating content. And again, if you're not a filmmaker, photographer, and you just kind of stumbled upon this, I really appreciate your time and attention. I hope that I helped you. I hope you rock those gifts this year, and you go do the things too. And hopefully, I'll catch you right back here on the next one.